Hello, welcome back to J-Lift's Journey to Get Jacked. Yesterday we talked about commitment and how it is important to structure your physique and build a base to become an experienced lifter. But today we are going to talk about the fundamentals of lifting and what actually causes muscle growth. Well, assuming you watched day one and you got a gym membership, picked your split, and started a routine, you're probably very sore right now. That is something you get used to later down the road. You'll occasionally get sore, but not in the regard that you probably are right now, not being used to the gym at all. So, with that being said, what builds muscle? Muscle adapts to stress. So if your body doesn't have a reason to grow, it won't grow, right? That is the fundamentals of lifting, and that is something you should follow all the time. A common misconception that many people have when they first begin the gym is that you build muscle in the gym. That is not the case. You are stimulating muscle growth in the gym, but you're actually recovering at home and building muscle at home. So recovery is a big, important topic. It's going to be your sleep, your calories, your protein, everything that you would do at home to maximize muscle growth of what you did in the gym. So you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep. Protein is another thing we can talk about. You want to be getting at least, and this is like something that you're not going to be used to, because I remember when I started tracking my protein, I noticed that I'm not getting enough protein during the day. It seems like, oh, if I ate eggs for breakfast, that's got to have protein, right? No, actually one egg is 6 grams of protein, and you need 0.7 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So 6 grams per egg is actually not that much. So yeah, with protein, you need to be getting that much each day. That's going to be something you have to get used to. With calories, depending on your goal, some people want to get in a calorie surplus and other people want to be in a calorie deficit. If you are cutting and you want to lose body fat, you want to be in a calorie deficit, meaning you are consuming less calories than are being burnt. So that is something you want to focus on if you're in a cut. But if you are in a bulk, you want to be consuming more calories than you are being burnt. So you are putting on additional weight as you go. As for me, I'm constantly in a calorie surplus. I'm not necessarily bulking. We'll get into bulking later down the road and the science behind that, but I'm in a calorie surplus because that's the most optimal for growth, and I'm kind of doing a lean bulk, which we'll get into that later, but that is one of the fundamentals of lifting, getting enough calories and getting enough protein. But back to recovery, get enough sleep every day. You need to be getting enough protein. So try to aim for 0.7 to 1 pound per pound of body weight. The next thing we will be going over is how to structure your workouts. This is a main thing. We'll use push-pull legs as an example. What I do is start each workout with a compound movement. A compound movement is something that is very heavy and uses multiple muscle groups to perform the movement. So for example, bench press is a compound movement. On push day, which is going to be your chest and triceps, you're going to be wanting to start with a bench pressing movement. Standardized bench press, barbell bench press, is not the most optimal for growth, but it will get you progress, especially if you're a beginner, and is good to learn. I recommend doing that to begin. So you can begin, and I'll get over this later with keeping your workouts in a different style each time. But to start, you want to be performing a compound at the beginning of each exercise. So for push, you want to maybe be doing barbell bench to start. And for legs, I would recommend to start with squats. The reason we do compound movements to start is because they require the most energy, and you can lift the most weight when you first come into the gym. So as you progress in the workout, you'll become weaker, more fatigued. So you would want to start with a compound movement to be able to perform that movement better and with correct form. As for the amount of sets you want to do, I'd recommend 2 to 3 sets. I found is the most optimal per exercise. So 2 to 3 sets for a compound movement. And then you want to be getting into isolation exercises, which we will get over. Essentially, it is focusing on a certain muscle group rather than doing a compound, which provides or produces a lot from many muscle groups. The next topic we will be going over is rep ranges. This is a big one. Many people misunderstand this one. Do rep ranges matter? Shortly, no, they do not matter. You can build the same amount of muscle mass doing low rep ranges to high rep ranges. The main thing that matters is volume, and I cannot stress this enough, it's volume. If you mainly want to get stronger, you want to be doing lower rep ranges, right? But to build muscle mass, doing lower rep ranges, you want to be doing more volume to accommodate for the lack of reps you were doing. So let's say I'm doing 1 to 2 reps. I would want to maybe be adding like 3 sets, 4 sets on to my lift because I am doing less volume. That is the same for high rep ranges. If I'm going maybe 10 to 12 reps, I want to be doing less sets because I am overcompensating for the volume, right? So in short, rep ranges don't really matter, but if you want to get stronger, you mainly want to be biasing lower rep ranges. And with that, we get into failure. When you first begin, I would not recommend to go to failure every set, definitely not, but I would recommend to go close to failure, so getting a few reps from failure each set. So the reason for this is because when you first start, your body's not used to putting in such a substantial amount of work into the gym, so going to failure each set will cause a lot of fatigue buildup. But once you get later down the road, you want to be going to failure almost every set, which is what I do. Because like I said earlier, you will not stimulate muscle growth if you're not putting in the work. So failure is a big topic for that. You want to always be going to failure in the future, but to start, stick with a few reps from failure. I know I've been talking a lot. I will summarize more at the end of what we've been talking about, but this is one last thing. This is arguably one of the most important things, so if you haven't been listening, it's time to listen. Progressive overload. What is it? It is gradually doing more over time. One of the main things I've been stating is that your body needs a reason to grow, right? So if you're sticking to the same amount of reps, same amount of weight every week, your body has no reason to grow. Your body almost doesn't want to grow, right? So you want to put it in a position where it needs to grow, adding more reps, weight, or better form each week. Those are 3 ways you can induce progressive overload over your training. But the main thing you want to be focusing on is adding weight each week. So let's say you are doing flies and you are doing a machine flies. Let's say 1 week you're doing 130 pounds, right? And you're repping. Oh, you got 6 reps, right? 6 reps of 130 pounds. So the next week, what are you going to do? You're not going to be doing 130, right? Because you've already done 130. Your body's not going to grow from doing 130. So you're going to be doing more reps or more weight, right? Sensing a pattern. So if you want to do more weight up into obviously 135, 140, you might be weaker at first, but in the long run, it is important to do that because you are basically making your muscles adapt to more stress. So instead of 6 reps, maybe this week you get 7, 8 reps. And then once you get out of that rep range, I would not recommend to go past 12 reps total. So if you are doing more than 12 reps, fatigue max, right? You don't want to be doing that. So you want to up the weight after you get more than 12 reps. And honestly, you can do it sooner than that. You just want to be adding reps or weight each week, right? The main principle of that. How can you do this with form? Well, let's say you're doing pec deck, right? 130. And let's say you are maybe going a little like quick on it, and you're going like you're just repping it out, right? Maybe next week you want to be doing a slowed, more controlled set of that. So maybe it's the same 6 reps, maybe it's the same weight, but you're maybe slowing the eccentric part of the movement and then just doing a more controlled like set, right? Because that is still progressive overload. So when you're incorporating these like 3 methods of progressive overload, you're just making sure you're advancing your body to the movements and forcing your body to grow, essentially. But I find the easiest way and the simplest way to do this is just by adding weight every week. So you're doing curls, 30s, next week 35s, right? It's just a simple thing. You're basically going up the steps, right? Do not stay at one step because you won't grow. That is the main fundamental of progressive overload. I know there's a lot to take in. I'll just be recapping everything we went over. We're beginning to structure our routines to follow more. So to do that, we're going to be doing compound movements to start. Then you want to be getting into isolation exercises, and with every exercise, 2 to 3 sets, right? Doing each set close to failure, or if not to failure. While doing this, you want to progressive overload each week, adding weight or reps. And that's essentially it for today. Just focus on kind of incorporating all these principles into your routine, and make sure you are progressing each week, tracking and progressing. Another thing, recovery. This is big. Do not underestimate this. Try to be getting enough protein each day. Try to be getting at least 8 hours of sleep. But honestly, if you were training and if you're an active athlete, you should be getting 9 to 10 hours. And like a lot of people don't even know that, but sleep is really, really important. So sleep, protein, and calories based on your goals. And your routine, like I said, is going to be structured off compound isolation and 2 to 3 sets, almost to failure, progressive overload. Essentially all you really need to know. But yeah, that was a lot to take in. Congratulations if you made it this far. It's only the 2nd video, but still a lot, right? I could have probably split this video up into 2 videos, but there's still a lot to go over, right? So this is kind of like the beginning introduction into lifting. Alright, well, that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe. Of course, right? I'm just beginning this stuff, so if you have more ideas, let me know in the comments. And we'll see you in the next video. Follow to stay in the journey to jacked.